I want you to picture the perfect video game. A game that excels at everything it sets out to do. A game with perfect pacing, level design, and music. A game with a story that means so much to you. Something that you'll remember for your entire life. A game that truly redefines what video games can even be.
Now go find a f***ing idiot.
Alright, I'm sorry for teasing this as my big love letter to Ocarina of Time. That's not what this is. But while you're here, might as well subscribe. I always appreciate the support. Anyway, the Legend of Zelda series is my favorite. Not just my favorite video game series, but perhaps my favorite thing of all time. This might come as a shock to you if you're a longtime viewer of my content, as I've always tended to gravitate towards Mario videos. That said, I actually didn't play Zelda at all when I started my gaming career. It wasn't until I was 10 years old that I truly fell in love with the series. I was on vacation with my family one summer when I opened my 3DS to see what my brother had just been playing. He bought a copy of The Legend of Zelda: A Link Between Worlds. After playing it, it wasn't long before I was addicted to all things Zelda. Everything in my YouTube feed was Zelda, and all I wanted for Christmas were more of the games. One of the legendary games I heard of while scouring the internet was none other than The Legend of Zelda: Ocarina of Time.
I think it's important to mention all of this because it shows what I was building. Expectations.
Yeah, at the rate I was going, Ocarina of Time could have cured cancer and I still would have been underwhelmed. Let's back it up for a second. What even is Ocarina of Time?
Food.
Let's take a trip to the mid-1990s. Nintendo's just about to release their new home console. What could go wrong? The N64 was a big deal in the gaming industry. Not only was it the home of most of Nintendo's beloved IPs, but it was the console that led the charge into 3D gaming. While not the first 3D game, Super Mario 64 was able to not only revolutionize platformers, but the gaming industry as a whole. In this time, many well-known video game series decided to make the flip to 3D. Series like Sonic, Bomberman, and Bubsy all made the switch with varying levels of success. Even other Nintendo franchises were going the 3D route in some respect, Donkey Kong, Kirby, and Pokemon just to name a few. Naturally, this would beg the question, where is The Legend of Zelda on N64?
Well, you'd only have to wait until Space World 1995 to find out what the Zelda team was cooking up.
The game was shown off in a 12-second trailer and looked very different to the final release we know today. The game was just called Zelda 64 at the time, and all we saw is a very classic-looking Link fighting a metallic enemy for a few seconds. The game must have been in very early development at this point. We saw the game again in 1996. Link still has a brown and green outfit, he's in an unknown location, and he's seemingly searching for the Triforce. None of this is in the final game. At the time, the game was planned to be released on the 64 disk drive, a failed extension for the N64 that never made its way out of Japan. Ocarina of Time was developed at the same time as both Super Mario 64 and Mario Kart 64. The developers shared ideas across the games, which caused elements of Zelda 64 to appear in Super Mario 64 and vice versa. The main idea that Mario 64 took from Zelda was actually Peach's castle. Originally, Zelda 64 was going to have Link be stuck in Ganondorf's castle and have him jump into paintings to complete missions. I have no clue which ideas made their way into Mario Kart.
I've heard some people say that they would have preferred this game over what we got. Are you guys dumb? Just play Mario.
The game was shown off again at E3 1997, and I think this looks more like the final release. There's still a lot of stuff not in the final game, like this house. Why is there a house? 1 year later, on November 21st, 1998, The Legend of Zelda: Ocarina of Time released on Nintendo 64 with an astonishing 99% on Metacritic and sold 7.6 million copies.
For a long time, this was the best-selling Zelda game ever made, and today it still remains as the highest-rated video game of all time. I hope I like it.
Our adventure starts out with a dying tree.
Well, I don't see what's so cool about that.
He has a mustache.
Oh!
He tells a fairy named Navi to go find Link to start our journey. Then he eats us. We fight this big-ass bug and the tree dies. We're given the first of 3 spiritual stones and we head off to see Zelda. After leaving home, we...
fucking birds!
We make our way to Zelda, and she sends us on a mission to collect the other 2 spiritual stones from the other races in Hyrule so we can get the Triforce and stop Ganondorf. I'm kinda rushing through this, but that's not because I dislike this game's story. I actually think it's fantastic. Thing is, so much happens in this game, and I just can't cover everything. At this point, we've familiarized ourselves with the basics of the gameplay. You traverse Hyrule to progress and battle enemies that get in your way. Combat is pretty fun and easy to get used to. By pressing the Z button, you're able to lock onto the enemy closest to you. Z targeting is a dream and only gets better as the series progresses. I cannot imagine the series without this feature. You have multiple ways to slash with your sword by using the B button and pointing the analog stick in different directions. You can throw up your shield for protection at any time, but cannot strike enemies during. Link also has a lot of items at his disposal. At this point, you can use bombs, a boomerang, and a slingshot to face off against enemies. For the most part, I wouldn't recommend using these unless you have to. They can be used to fight, but for the most part, they're just really clunky in combat. To be honest, this whole game feels kinda rough to control. I've gotten used to it over the years, and I know it's what kids in the 90s were accustomed to, but geez, it can get on my nerves sometimes. Especially the camera. This isn't the only game in the series to be this way, and I know it's not that big of a deal, but it's really annoying to not be able to move the camera however you like. You can only center it behind Link with the Z button. Another item worth mentioning is the Fairy Ocarina. It's a musical instrument handed to Link by his friend Saria when he leaves home at the start of the game. It's not really used for much. You can play a couple songs that have really minor uses. Oh well. Most of the game's items are found after defeating mini-bosses in dungeons and are used for more than just combat. Dungeons are big gauntlets filled to the brim with enemies to kill and puzzles to solve. The ones so far have kinda sucked though. The first one is fine, but the other 2 are okay at the best of times and downright terrible at the worst of times. For the most part, the bosses in this game are really solid. Some go on for a bit too long, but all in all, it's really satisfying to defeat them. I love exiting a dungeon equipped with a new item, feeling stronger than when I entered. It's through these dungeons that you're able to collect the other 2 spiritual stones. The first one was kept with the Great Deku Tree from before. He looks over the Kokiris in Kokiri Forest, a group of eternal children. That is where Link is from. The second one is held in Goron City by the leader of the Gorons, Darunia. The Gorons are big friendly rock men who live inside Death Mountain and eat boulders. Thing is, there's a big rock blocking their path to the food supply, so Link has to help them.
I don't get it. Why don't they just eat the rock?
Next, Link must make his way through Lake Hylia to Zora's domain, where Princess Ruto of the Zoras holds the last spiritual stone. The Zoras are a race of anthropomorphic fish people with very high opinions of themselves, who worship a big fish guy named Lord Jabu Jabu. As it happens, Princess Ruto has been eaten by Lord Jabu Jabu, so we have to go inside to rescue her.
Look, I know I shouldn't comment on this stuff, but that fish is gonna kill you guys.
Aside from the main quest, there's plenty of things to do. There are collectibles called Skulltula tokens you can collect in exchange for prizes. I got quite a few of them, but I'd never go out of my way for them. I didn't really feel incentivized to collect them all. There's also plenty of side quests to complete in this game. The term side quests implies you'll be going on an adventure or doing something cool, but in reality it can be as simple as finding the right dog to give to their owner or planting seeds. They're honestly quite boring.
Who knows though? Maybe one day they'll make a Zelda game where the side quests actually outshine the main quest.
Back to the main quest. After collecting all 3 spiritual stones and being handed the titular Ocarina of Time, Link heads to the Temple of Time and finds the Master Sword, the Blade of Evil's Bane.
Yeah, sure, whatever that means.
Things aren't what they seem. Grabbing this sword makes us quickly disappear, and Ganon is able to take the Triforce for himself.
Why did we think this was a good idea again?
7 years go by, and Link wakes up in the Sacred Realm as a fully grown adult. There he meets Rauru, who informs him that Ganondorf has taken full control of Hyrule, and that only by awakening 7 sages can Link defeat Ganon. Link sets off on his quest, but first bumps into Sheik. Zelda. Sheik is Zelda in disguise. I think we all know that. From here, your new objective is to save 5 of the 7 sages by going through 5 more dungeons. From here, the dungeons get a lot better. The Forest Temple, the Fire Temple, the Shadow Temple, and Spirit Temple are all absolutely fantastic. There's also the Water Dungeon, and ugh.
I have no energy to rant about that dungeon. It sucks. It sucks real bad.
The sages you awaken are all characters you've met along your journey so far, and they're fairly uninteresting. There's Link's childhood friend Syria, who I don't care about, Darunia and Princess Ruto, who are actually good characters, and then there's Naburu and Impa, who I can hardly remember any traits of. Honestly, the only character that I really like in this game is Ganondorf. He's not a very detailed character or anything, but his pure villainy is pretty cool, and I like that the game builds up to beating him. Another character worth mentioning is your fairy partner Navi. Navi sucks. Navi doesn't shut up. Navi constantly begs you to talk to her so she can explain things that you either piece together yourself or don't need to know.
I honestly wonder why Fi from Skyward Sword gets all of the hate for the obnoxious things that both of these characters do.
As an adult, you have access to many more items. The bow, Megaton hammer, hookshot, mirror shield, lens of truth, and more are all a lot of fun and much better than the abilities given to us as a child. I gotta say though, I really hate firing the bow and any item that makes you go into first-person mode. The controls are seriously clunky, I cannot stress that enough. The best part about being able to play as adult Link is getting to see how Hyrule transformed over the past 7 years. Kokiri Forest is covered with enemies, Zora's Domain is completely frozen over, and the Hyrule Castle town is in complete ruin. One new location opens up to you as adult Link called Gerudo Desert. This is where Ganondorf is from, and it's by far the least friendly location you've been to so far. You get to go to this place by riding on horseback. Oh yeah, Link has a horse named Epona as an adult. I forgot about that.
Look, I get that people love Epona, but there's seriously no real use to her. Oh, I get to traverse the completely empty Hyrule field faster? Yippee.
I guess now is as good a time as any to mention the game's score. It's phenomenal. Directed by legendary Nintendo composer Koji Kondo, this has to be one of the most iconic video game scores of all time. It's not the best score, and it's not even the best Zelda score out there, but every song is amazing and is consistently played when I listen to video game music. At this point in the game, you can switch between playing as Child Link and Adult Link every time you go to the Temple of Time. Honestly though, I'm about ready to wrap this game up, so let's just go fight Ganon. Upon freeing all the sages, Sheik reveals herself to have been Zelda all along.
Really?
It's also revealed that Link and Zelda each hold a third of the Triforce that Ganon doesn't yet have. Apparently, the Triforce split into 3 pieces when Ganon tried to steal it. Don't think this means Link has the advantage or anything. He's not allowed to use his piece of the Triforce for some reason. Zelda gets kidnapped. Link makes his way to Ganon's tower and gets past the gauntlet of enemies in his way using the 6 medallions he was given by the sages and the light arrows gifted to him by Zelda. He makes his way to Ganon's room and... Is this motherfucker playing an organ? The climactic battle begins and it's badminton. It's just badminton. We won, but Ganondorf initiated self-destruction on his castle. We make our way out of the tower in an admittedly intense sequence. The castle crumbles to the ground, and out from the rubble emerges Ganondorf. He uses his remaining power to transform into Big Beast Ganon.
He could have opened with that. Okay.
This fight is honestly really intense and has a really foreboding atmosphere. His weak spot is his tail, which is not an easy spot to reach. Partway through the battle, Link loses his sword and has to rely on other items. It's really nerve-wracking, and I died quite a few times on my first playthrough. After finishing the final blow, Ganondorf is sealed away in the Sacred Realm by the 7 sages. Zelda feels bad that Link lost his childhood in order to save the world, and uses the Ocarina to send him back in time. And that is where our story ends.
That was pretty good. You know, good story, good dungeons, good combat and everything. I just don't think that it's all that it's cracked up to be. I mean, come on, this is the only game with a 99% on Metacritic. There's nothing out there better than this? Really? The controls are rough, the side quests are uninteresting, and so are most of the characters. The title of the game is even weird. When I got this stupid thing, I barely did anything but open doors with it. I mean, like, you can't do anything with this thing.
Who's there?
Hello?
What are you doing calling me on your ocarina?
Nothing. I was just trying to criticize Ocarina of Time for the N64.
Wait, what?
What was that about?
Ugh, it's you? I thought at least such a stinky nerd would have good taste in video games.
Hey, I'm sweaty, not stinky. And what are you even doing here?
You're an idiot, and I'm here to convert you.
You like Ocarina of Time?
No, I just hate all people that don't like Ocarina of Time. Think fast, bub.
Ocarina of Time 3D?
Is that what it was? I thought that was Big Brain Academy Wii degree from the Nintendo Wii.
Alright, I guess we're not done yet. Fast forward to June 16th, 2011, The Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time 3D released for the Nintendo 3DS with a 94% on Metacritic and sold 6.4 million copies.
A 94% on the original got a 99? Is this one worse in some way?
That's gotta be a lie. Wii degree is sublime.
This is infinitely better. Better graphics, better controls. The water temple isn't as bad. It's easier to skip dialogue. Wow. Sure, it's not perfect. I mean, it's still Ocarina of Time, but I can totally understand why people rave about this game so much now. I can appreciate it for what it is and not what it isn't.
Thank you, Jim. I can't believe you actually made me change my mind on something.
All part of the job. Now, if you're ready to work out, there's always Master Quest mode.
Damn it!
Yes, the 3DS is the easiest way to access the game's hard mode, Master Quest. Originally bundled alongside the GameCube re-release that you could get if you pre-ordered the Wind Waker. It's the same exact game, just mirrored with harder dungeons. It's a fun new way to play the game after you've already beaten it, but I'll pass on this.
You.
Look, man, I liked the game. What more do you want from me?
Jim!
Ah! Ah! Ah!